let me preface this a little by saying, of course I know they're not going to fire Kyle Shanahan.
Right.
Many of you think that I am wacko out of my mind. No, I know they're not going to fire him. So the question is not, are they going to fire him, but would it be a good move to fire him? And I would like to entertain that topic. And before I say that, you people watch Iggy and me every week and for a long time. And I think it's fair to say that I come across here as a reasonable person, open-minded, listening to other points of view, a good father, a good person. So what I'm going to say about Shanahan does not come from hatred, animus, nothing like that. I'm a former sports columnist. It's my job to think about this and to state my opinion clearly. And if you disagree with it, God love you. God love you. It's a conversation. It's not an argument between enemies. So if I were Jed York, okay, it's hypothetical. If I were Jed York and running the show with the 49ers, you're damn right I would fire Kyle Shanahan. I would. I understand that when he came to the Niners, they were a mess. And I understand he's made them a very respectable team. I recognize that in certain ways he's a good coach. He's not a great coach. People asked me during the winning streak, can you now say he's a great coach? I said, wait till the playoffs. Then I'll let you know. He's a good coach. He's by no means a great coach. But I acknowledge that he's a good coach. Here's what I have to say. There are certain coaches who can get you to a certain level. I call them high-level losers. I think in his own way, Harbaugh is a high-level loser, Jim. And we're friends. But they can get you to a certain level, but they can't get past it. And the idea in the National Football League, this is not a Hearts and Flowers league. This is win the goddamn thing.
Yeah.
He hasn't done it, and he'll never do it. He'll never do it because he's his own impediment.
Yep.
The reason Kyle Shanahan won't do it is Kyle Shanahan.
Agreed.
He doesn't just lose the big game. He flops. There's a difference. You lose a big game, you say, gee, it could have gone, We can point out every single time he's flopped, starting with blowing the Super Bowl when he was with Atlanta. Super Bowl with the 49ers. Last year, the NFC Championship. This year, talk about a flop.
Yeah.
He flopped. It's like I hadn't even sat in my chair yet, and he had already given the game away.
He missed that challenge on 4th and 3. That was the beginning of the end. That was the beginning.
And what he did, we'll get in a minute what he did, because it's very controversial. People think, it's just bad breaks, what happened to Brock Purdy. I don't believe that at all. I want to say another thing. I used to cover all the teams in the Bay Area. I know Joe Lacob very well, who owns the majority owner of the Warriors. He had a pretty good coach. He had Mark Jackson.
Who took over that team when they were terrible. He turned them into a respectable team. They were in the playoffs. They were winning 50 games, winning playoff series.
He got rid of them.
After 3 years.
Yep. And what I want to say is Lacob's attitude, and the Yorks do not have this attitude. That's why Lacob has won all these championships, and they haven't. He said, it's not good enough. I want to win the goddamn thing.
Yeah, I want to be a champion. I want to be a champion.
Yes. And he is a champion.
He is
because
he
has that attitude. And he said, Mark Jackson is not good enough. I need Steve Kerr. What the 49ers need, they have Mark Jackson. He's a respectable coach, Kyle. They need to find Steve Kerr.
Yep.
So that's my main point. Now, I have others, Iggy, but I want to say, people, when I said on this morning or the last few days, I called Kyle Shanahan into question. People have said, you're nuts, go to sleep, old man, all this kind of crap. I want to point out the 49ers, when they mattered, which they haven't mattered since 1995, really, when they mattered, they were ruthless.
Yeah.
They got rid of George Seifert. Now, let me just say this. I know George. George is a better coach than Shanahan probably ever will be. George won 2 Super Bowls. George should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Iggy.
He's also a better coach than Mike Shanahan.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Went to 5 NFC championships, won 2 Super Bowls, yes.
Yeah, 2 Super Bowls on his own.
His win percentage was .648 over 8 years with the 49ers. .648. Got fired after going 12-4 and losing in the... Go ahead.
Well, hold on. He went 12-4. This year they went 13-4 because it's an extra game. So their records are comparable. And he got fired on that record.
He won the Super Bowl 2 years before then.
That's right.
Lost that year to the Packers, who went on to win the Super Bowl. He lost by 23. Kyle just lost by 24.
Yeah. So what I want to say is, not everybody, some people are saying, it's just clickbait. Look at the Cohns. They're so negative. Mm-hmm. Well, Eddie, who people admire as being the best owner the Niners ever had, he got rid of George Seifert, who had a comparable record that year to Kyle, and who lost to the eventual Super Bowl champion. So there's precedent for this. The Yorks, who were not nearly in the league of Eddie, they got rid of Mariucci after a pretty good... Well,
6 years.
6 years, which is what this guy's had, right? 6 years?
He was 57-39, which is a .594 winning percentage. He went to 1 NFC championship, and he got fired after going 10-6 and losing in the playoffs to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who won the Super Bowl that year.
Right. So again, even the Yorks have a precedent for saying, we have some pretty good coaches, but now we're going to get rid of them. Yep. No one complained at that time.
Look at Philly. Philly had Andy Reid. They stuck with him for 14 years and tried to make it work. He never won a Super Bowl with them. Good coach. Great coach. Fired him. Went to Chip Kelly. Didn't work. Fired him after 3 years. Went to Doug Peterson. Won a Super Bowl for the first time in their franchise history. Fired him. Brought in Nick Sirianni. They're back in the Super Bowl. Bold franchise. Ruthless.
And Iggy, and it was good for Reid. He went over to Kansas City and did well.
It was. And now they're facing each other. Gotta love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the questions at Super Bowl? So what's it like to face Philly? Is it a comeback? Is it revenge? Oh, am I glad I'm not going to be there for that stupidity. But in any event, so when people say essentially that Lowell is a moron for raising these questions, the 49ers raised these questions many years before.
Absolutely.
And with coaches as good or I think better than Kyle Shanahan. I'm going to take a breath for a minute. You go on, Iggy.
I'm going to keep going. So with Kyle, it's not just these failures in the playoffs. There's been 4 now. And it's like he invents ways to lose these games that he should to beat himself. He invents ways to beat himself every year. But so that's just part of it, the playoff thing. But the other thing that's glaring is the quarterback injury thing. He really either can't keep quarterbacks healthy or doesn't really prioritize it. And the results are in. Jimmy Garoppolo, who everyone has called injury prone, wasn't injury prone before he came here, 7 injuries in 61 starts with the 49ers under Kyle Shanahan. Trey Lance, 3 injuries in 4 starts, 5 including the preseason one where he got hurt. Purdy, 2 injuries in 8 starts. CJ Beathard, completely freaking obliterated in 12 starts. Obliterated. If you can't keep a quarterback healthy, if that's not a priority to you, you're never going to win a Super Bowl. Ever. And the 1 year he didn't get a quarterback hurt was those 2 years with Matt Ryan when he was an offensive coordinator under Dan Quinn, who I'm sure during the week said, no, Kyle, we're not going to have our backup tight end block the best pass rusher in football. No one says no to Kyle Shanahan here because they can't. He's the head coach.
Yeah. Let's talk about a lot of people. I'm sorry, you
also RG3. I forgot. There's also RG3 from 10 years ago. Completely ruined his career.
Yeah. Now, let's go back to RG3. My impression was he was a real talent.
He was. Second pick in the draft.
Rookie of the year. Talent. And Kyle and Mike Shanahan ruined him.
Yeah.
I don't see how they can look him in the eye. And frankly, I don't see how Kyle can look Brock Purdy in the eye after what he did to him. So I want to say this. In a lot of the crap that I'm getting on Twitter, that I'm a hater and all of this shit, there's one theme. These are routine injuries. Don't you know about football? Football's a violent sport. You know what? I know more than you do about football. My favorite sport is boxing. That's an even more violent sport. I know about violence, okay? I also know, let's just talk about what happened to Brock Purdy. Mm-hmm. Iggy and I have said it a lot, but let's not screw around and say it again. Kyle Shanahan is what you call a scheme coach
Yep.
as opposed to a football coach. Bill Walsh was a football coach. Kyle is a scheme coach like his dad. What it means is he sits in a room and it's quiet. And he either works on a board, a laptop, or he does it by hand. Bill Walsh did it by hand. And he draws up his plays. And his plays are gorgeous and they're wonderful. But he never says to himself, what happens on the field? What happens on the grass and the dirt? Because football isn't played in his little office. Football is played on grass and dirt with muscles and snot and blood. And when you have a play-action pass, your question has to be, is my quarterback going to be safe? Is my quarterback going to play the next play? Mm-hmm. So people say, well, the tight end ought to be able to make it. Bullshit.
Bullshit.
Bullshit. And Croft, I don't know him. He may be a very nice man. He is one of the worst players on the team.
Yeah.
He might be the worst player on offense.
And Kyle Shanahan let one of the worst players on the team determine the season.
Yeah. I mean, if this guy weren't playing football, he might be begging groceries at Safeway. He's Mr. Irrelevant.
Also, another thing, a good coach is look at the defense and they say, who is the guy on this defense that I can't let ruin the game? When people face the Niners, they're like, okay, that's Nick Bosa. We can't let Nick Bosa fucking destroy us. And that's what teams do. What did you think Hassan Reddick was? He came out almost like he thought Hassan Reddick was nobody. Like, this guy, who is this guy? I'm going to block him with my backup tight end. That was in the script, Dad. That was scripted. First drive of the game. Last week before, they gave Micah Parsons a lot of respect. Oh, my God, it's Mike. He's such a great player. Hassan Reddick, sorry, bud. And as a result, Hassan Reddick ended the game in the first quarter. Ended the game, the best player on their team. Kyle was like, I don't think he's that good. Oh, you do? Good scouting.
Also, Kyle said, well, a tight end ought to make a block like that. No. On the field,
your right tackle couldn't block Hassan Reddick, but you want your backup tight end to do it.
Right.
He wasn't even active last week, Dad. He was inactive last week against Dallas.
Yeah, it's not it, and it again. I don't see how Kyle can look Croft in the eye. It's not fair to do that to him. If you want to run this play, and by the way, he revealed this play very early in the game. He could, as a play caller, what was the hurry to use it? But he had to use it at some point. But he's asking this really not particularly talented non-entity to block this. What did he have? 17 and a half sacks?
Now he has 19 and a half.
Yeah. And it's not fair to Croft. It's certainly not fair to Brock Purdy. Look what happened to Brock Purdy. And it's not Croft's fault. And then, like a schmuck, he did it again.
On the next drive with Kittle. And Josh Johnson nope. No one can block Riddick. You got to double team him. He's the best player on the team. What are you doing?
So
what are you doing?
What Bill Walsh used to do was, who are my players? What are their strengths and weaknesses? How am I going to run this play on the goddamn field? And he was not a scheme coach. He was a real football coach. Right. And you know the distinction I'm making, Iggy. Yeah. Bill never would have had poor Croft blocking Reddick. It would have been insane. He would have run a different play, or he would have had different blocking. So what I want to say to all the people who say, Lowell's negative, Lowell's a hater. I don't hate Kyle, but I'm critical. No, he screwed up.
Pass protection? Go ahead.
So what I want to say, he has a history of being a flop. He's never, in my opinion, going to get past it. It's who he is. And he gets quarterbacks hurt. He's never going to get past it. It's who he is. If Jed York had the courage that Eddie had, he would fire his ass.
Pass protection is not something Kyle Shanahan values, which means he's going to get quarterbacks hurt and he's not going to win the Super Bowl. Because no one gives an offensive coach credit for their pass protection. Look at that. Look at that blocking scheme. You get credit for your running plays, all the different angles. You get credit for your patterns, the routes. You get credit for your pre-snap motion. People, oh my God, look at all this great stuff. But just blocking a quarterback, no one gives you credit. But you have to do it. Otherwise, but he won't. And what he'll always do is say, oh, well, the quarterback should have stepped up in the pocket. He could.
We got that one.
We could have stepped up. He could have thrown the ball away. He says it every time, and his fans eat it up. So hold on. Let me take this another way. You said they should fire his ass. I respectfully disagree, Dad. I love you. I think they should. I think they should trade him, his contract, and his ego. I don't like the idea of firing him and letting him walk away with that contract. Trade the contract too. Let someone else handle, because if you fire him, you got to pay him like what 20, whatever he's making for the no. Take the contract, take the ego, send him to Indianapolis, get like two.
Send him to Houston.
Yeah, send him to Houston. Houston would be great for him. Because that's a complete rebuild, right? Let him do what he did with the
every excuse.
Yeah, he could do whatever he wants. Go to Houston and send back a few first-round picks, trade him, and then fans would say, okay, well, who do you want to replace him with? Forget Sean Payton. I would replace him with the offensive coordinator from Philly. I would hire Shane Steichen. He's the number one offensive coach getting interviewed right now. He's from Sacramento. He developed Jalen Hurts. He coached Justin Herbert when he was a rookie. He's been in the league for more than 10 years. He's been a quarterback coach. He's been an offensive coordinator. Shane Steichen is who I would go with. And he comes from a pretty freaking good organization in Philly.
How do you spell Steichen?
Steichen. There's a CH.
I knew there was a CH in there. I had
There's a CH. It's not Steichen, though. It's Steichen.
It was a lurking CH, right?
Yeah. But he's from out here. It's a good job. And if you want Trey Lance to work out, well, this guy developed Jalen Hurts from a second-round pick into an MVP candidate. If you want Brock Purdy to work out, this guy could maybe keep him upright. That's what I like about him.
Here's the other thing. Steichen. Not Steichen.
Nope.
Can develop a quarterback. I want to tell you who in his whole life will never develop a quarterback.
Does his name start with a K? Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah. He has no freaking clue
how
to develop. No, but he has a clue how to ruin a quarterback. Again, he doesn't get like a pulled hamstring. He gets the UCL tear. He gets a broken leg. He gets RG3 ruin the guy.
Real quick, the UCL thing. 2 quarterbacks in the history of the NFL have suffered this injury. Both of them are under Kyle Shanahan. Purdy and Mullins. That's it. 2 quarterbacks. Purdy and Mullins. Mullins too.
Yeah.
Mullins too.
Again, I do not see how Kyle can look Purdy in the eye because he got him hurt. He didn't mean to get him hurt. I'm not saying he's a bad person. Of course he didn't mean to get him hurt, but he was inadequate. He didn't go from his private room and his script to what's going to happen on the dirt and grass. And a real football coach, Joe Gibbs, Bill Walsh, does.
Right. And when I asked Kyle after the game about the play, he said, well, Brandon Ayuk was open. And that's always Kyle's answer. Well, my pattern worked. This pass pattern got this guy open against that coverage. Yes, but you couldn't block it. You couldn't protect your quarterback, so it doesn't matter. It's just academic. It's theoretical. Yeah. It worked in theory, but not in practice because your freaking backup tight end got destroyed by the best edge rusher in the game, and your quarterback got hurt, and now we can't play next year, and now you have a huge freaking problem at quarterback, and we should trade you.
You know what, Iggy? I say fire him, but you say trade him. Fine by me. I'd like to trade him to Houston. I would love that.
How many first-round picks do you think Houston would give up for him? Oh, my God, it's Kyle Shanahan.
Oh, my God, Shanahan.
Oh, my God, he'd give us instant credibility. Yep.
And not only that.
Yeah.
We can get his father, too.
The network. And then he'll take us to the AFC Championship game, and he'll freaking lose. It'll be great. Can't wait.